Welcome to the Neural Implant Podcast, where we talk with the people behind the current events and breakthroughs in brain implants in an understandable way, helping bring together various fields involved in neuroprosthetics. Here is your host, Ladan Neurotech.
Hello, JoJo Platt. Welcome to the show. It's finally, you're on the show. We've known each other for at least a year or two. You are very prolific on Twitter. You have a new project. I'm dying to hear about this. So welcome to the show. And I want to hear about this new project of yours.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm glad we're finally able to do this. Last week, let me back up a little bit. I have been involved in bioelectronic medicine, and I started with that with the Feinstein Institute in New York as part of their initiative to launch a center, a journal, and staff up I think we staffed up about 9 labs in 2 years there to launch the center. And so part of my mission there was to help promote and coalesce the field of bioelectronic medicine within the greater field of neurotechnology, neuromodulation. As a result of that, and as well as being just a particularly outgoing person, I think, in a field of introverts or perceived introverts, I was able to really develop a great network with some great friends and people doing research in amazing areas within the field of neurotech. I early on took it upon myself to just post things that I thought were interesting from the research perspective on LinkedIn and Twitter, because all the people who do the actual work and do the research in engineering, neuroscience, analytics, microfab, all of that, they don't have the amount of time that I do to read the non-journal articles or to look at things that are vastly outside of their purview. So I started looking at some of the metrics, and then I was looking and I thought, wow, I'm getting 20,000 views a week. Oh, wow, I'm getting 40,000 views a week. And, my business partner said, well, I think it's time you actually did something with that. So we've launched Behind the Bench with JoJo Platt. I am using that as a platform all of my regular posts that I put on LinkedIn and Twitter are there, so they'll continue to be in all places. But I wanted to add some original content, some feature articles and interviews, guest editorials, things that don't belong in the journals and things that don't come through in some of the presentations that we see at our regular conferences, and humanize the researchers and make them approachable and help other people in the field, whether it's a senior PI or a PhD student or even an undergrad student, get to know these people at a more personal level and understand that there are peaks and valleys in every researcher's career, and it's not unique. And part of it too is if you're going through hell, don't stop, and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, it's really cool. I really enjoyed it. I read the first one about everybody's favorite neural engineer, Doug Weber. It was really good. It was really, so a bit biased, like everybody loves him. So it's like, okay, you can't write anything bad about him. I don't know what you could dig up or something like this, but it was really cool. It was very interesting. I learned a lot too. And it's just, it was very cool. I'm excited to see what's going to come down the pipeline as well.
Yeah, I like to keep the style a little more lighthearted. I'm not here to destroy anybody's reputation or dig into their sordid past and skeletons in their closet. I'd rather be more like a Rolling Stone than a People magazine. And the science part, like I said, if you find these people intriguing, you can go and dig up their papers and read their papers. And hopefully between the two, we've created an approachable path.
I'm curious about digging into your past, I guess. So what it kind of sounded like, Feinstein Institute kind of started this all, right? Like, and I guess that's where I noticed you, that's where you started to make splashes or something like this. How did that kind of come about? I'm very curious about this.
Well, I've been working with the Feinstein. I'm a consultant. I do strategic development consulting, so everything from corporate research agreements and institute to institute research collaborations, and help to put those together. But with the Feinstein, I started, I think, around 2008, 2009, and I was working on a project with them around sepsis. That project led to another project around Parkinson's and telehealth. And then that project, they just kept saying, hey, JoJo, can you do this? How about this? Being a jack of all trades and a master of some, we kept working, and we had a great little team at the beginning. We call ourselves the OG, the original gangstas. And from there, we launched the center. Actually, it all started with Kevin Tracy's foundational research and discovery in the cholinergic anti-inflammatory pathway and its effect, and vagus nerve stimulation's effect on the inflammatory response. And the 2014 Nature letter, I think that was Chris Pham, Kevin Tracy, and a few others, was sort of that planting the flag moment, I think, around bioelectronic medicine, which at the time was called electroceuticals until we all got hit with a cease and desist for a trademark name. Working with them, like I said, launching the center, I like to joke, and it's not entirely true, but I do like to joke that at the time, Feinstein, having grown up as a molecular biology shop, really only had engineers in IT and HVAC sort of capacities. I think they had one or two in research. So our team was responsible for recruiting the first lead research engineer in Chad Boughton. He agreed to come over from Battelle and start the center as the head. I think we launched, like I said, 9 labs in 2 years. I'm not sure the square footage of the footprint dedicated to the center, but it's quite impressive, and developed a clean room. And at the same time, we launched the journal Bioelectronic Medicine with Margot Puerta and Chris Zura within the Feinstein, which has had some great traction. It's a peer-reviewed journal with what I think is a very impressive editorial board. From there, I started adding more neurotech consulting clients and just haven't stopped.
That's amazing. I mean, recruiting, I'm very curious about recruiting. And I think we've exchanged some emails about this, because with recruiting, you literally have to know everybody. You have to know like the buyers and the sellers pretty much, and bringing that together. So how have you gotten into, you must have already been very, very deep into this community. You must have already known everybody to be able to do this. Or did you learn this on the fly?
Maybe a combination of the two. I think my job was, like I said, bringing people together around the field of bioelectronic medicine. So I got to know a lot of people. I'm outgoing, and part of my job in keeping the Feinstein updated was what I call cyber stalking, really just going out and looking at who's doing what in what areas, who's, leading the charge in biosensing, or who's the next rock star in data analytics or prototyping, microfabrication. Who is the next person that we would need, not today, not tomorrow, but in 6 months, because that's kind of how far you need to look out for recruiting. So a lot of it was actively digging for people who may or may not have been looking, and the other half was putting the word out that we were searching for these particular skill sets. And sometimes they come to you, and other times you have to go out and get them.
Wow, very cool. So if you're a potential, I don't know, if you want to be recruited eventually, what were the things that you looked for? What tips can you give to be snapped up later on?
Well, I think for the people who are still in their degree programs or postdocs, the trend that I've noticed is that so many institutions, whether it's commercial or academia or even government, is that they want you to have a particular area of expertise where you are 100% right at home and you feel like you're an expert within your domain. But then add to that some of the cross-functional disciplines that will let you go and talk to other members on the team without having to learn biology from the beginning, or learn neuroscience from day one, or, just have some comfort and familiarity with these cross-functional disciplines to add to your overall set of skills. So if you're in neuroscience, maybe take an engineering course or two, or, get to know some of your lab mates who are doing things that are outside your comfort zone, and talk to them about it. Get to know what it is that drives them. Why are they excited about what they're doing? And how do they see their application fitting in with your skill set? And they learn from you at the same time. That's the trend I've seen, not just with the Feinstein, but across the board.
Okay, so it's more like an interpersonal relationship, kind of like knowing people, versus maybe publishing or writing on Twitter, or, I don't know, somehow being well-known in the field, or what would you say, actually?
I would say at the end of the day, no matter what I do, at the end of the day, getting recruited and getting recognized and getting the job you want comes down to your abilities and your skill set. So no matter how much you post on Twitter, if you don't have the chops to back it up, it's not going to matter. That deficiency would be discovered in the interview process or during the probationary period. So yeah, it's great to be out there and be active, but you've got to have the underlying skills too. So, joining clubs is a great way to do it if you're not familiar with coding. Picking up a new coding language is always helpful. If you're in microfabrication, getting to know more about biology, of course, is important, and that's already built into your program. But then cross-training a little bit in data analytics and some AI and machine learning doesn't hurt either.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is really good. These are really good tips. A lot of people are. I mean, I would say maybe all the listeners are maybe within 3 to 5 years of maybe going to another job. So this is a very, very useful thing. You kind of got to dig your well before you're thirsty. Get to know where you want to go. Be very intentional about where you want to go, and then work towards that.
Oh, I just have one more point about career transitions and hiring. Is one thing I've heard from a lot of people too on the hiring side is that they don't receive a lot of direct contact from interested applicants. Applicants will typically go through whatever published or posted job channel is out there. But if you really want a position and if you think you are 100% fit for it, reach out to the PI whose lab is doing the hiring and get in front of them, because there are so many hurdles in HR. I find that especially in larger institutions where HR is integrated into hiring, not just for highly technical positions, but in a university, they may be hiring for the psychology department or the English department. So fine-tuning an HR recruiter's skills to know what matters and what doesn't can often and unfortunately wean out some really great candidates. So like I said, be discreet and really be honest with yourself about how are you really a fit before you reach out to that PI, but reach out, go direct to the source.
Interesting. Actually, you would be a really good person to answer this. How many job applications, how many people apply to these positions? I've heard numbers as big as like 100, 200 applications. And at that point, you can't even read all of those resumes or CVs. It's just kind of, you're like, okay, this half goes into the trash can. I'm not going to even look at it just because it's too much to look at.
No, actually, for the Feinstein Institute, I have a catalog of over 3,000 CVs for all of the positions that we filled, it's a lot. And we didn't use any optical scanning or any of the HR software. Each one was reviewed on its own merit. So I would do a very cursory first pass, and I'm not qualified as an engineer or scientist at certain levels. So I would at least make sure that, the CV was presentable. They had skills within the areas that we were looking for, whether it was neural implants or biomarkers or 3D modeling or optogenetics. And if they met a certain threshold, then I would pass them on to other assigned reviewers who would then score them, and then we'd discuss them as a group and then move on from there. Getting the right person and the right fit takes a lot of work.
Wow.
But it pays off in the end.
3,000. That's crazy. And we've talked actually before about your path getting into neural engineering. It was kind of interesting. Do you want to talk about this a little bit?
It's very unconventional. Like I said, I don't have a degree in engineering or science by any means. My degree comes in communications, and I think that served me well because I'm able to join into any group or any subset of neurotech and discuss with them what's important to them and find a way to distill that into messaging that resonates with other people with whom they need to connect. So it's a skill set that I feel very comfortable with. A lot of academic programs don't teach that outreach skill. It's been fun.
It's been very useful. In the land of the blind, the man with one eye is king. So, JoJo, you're very, prolific on Twitter. If people want to find you, how do they find you? Where do they subscribe? How do they follow you?
So the new platform behind the bench with JoJo Platt is neurotechbench.com. And that's probably the easiest and most centralized place to go. Otherwise, on LinkedIn and Twitter, just look for JoJo Platt. And I'm pretty visible. It's hard to miss.
Absolutely. You're probably the person that posts the most. So I think that's good. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ladan. I really appreciate it.
Hope you enjoyed the show and were able to learn something new, bringing together different fields in novel ways. Until next time on the Neural Implant Podcast.